Good morning, Quasar Markets. I hope everyone had a fantastic holiday, whether it was Christmas, Hanukkah, or any other holiday that you celebrated, or just a day with family and friends yesterday. Hopefully, everybody had a great day. Markets doesn't look like Santa packed the rally into the sled this year. We're definitely seeing a little bit of slugginess here this morning. Bitcoin, which had made a run back up towards 100,000, getting as high as 99,881 or so uh, overnight yesterday or during the day yesterday, has retraced back down to about 95.5 here, we'll say. Did get as low as almost 95 before bouncing back a little bit here this morning. But a little bit of weakness here we can see right around that 50-day MA again. So again, do we see it? I don't like to challenge that 50-day MA for too many days in a row here like you see it's doing. You usually tend to get a breakthrough on that. But we'll see. We got a nice bounce off of it back here in the middle of October. So we'll see if that happens again here. But that's what we want to keep our eye on this morning. As we get ready to open so far, the NASDAQ or QQQ looking to open down at around 527, 528 here, excuse me, 528, down about 3/4 of a point, or excuse me, 1/4 of a point here, about 35.35. So down a little bit. But looks like it's trying to pull some momentum here. Hopefully, let's see what we get. But so far, no rally. Same thing, SPY down almost exactly the same, down 0.34%. Yeah, not much really going on there. We'll mention if we are looking overseas. If I can remember where I put it. There we go. So far, the stock 600 in Europe is up about 0.18%. I will say it um, sort of rallied here this morning. It sort of picked up throughout the day a little bit. So the Shanghai Composite is also up slightly, up about 0.14%. And the Nikkei, or the Japanese stock market, seeing a nice little move back up here, almost half a point, trading at 39,470 or so. So nice move up. That's what we've got going on there. If we look, gold sitting at about 2,625. So, it was below 26, so it has picked up a little bit, but no real move there on gold. Silver cannot hold above 30 recently, so that's been a big spot here. And we see gold sitting under the 200-day MA. See if we can get a breakthrough there, maybe get a little positivity going. Natural gas sitting at about 360, so it has come down from that high of about 380. But again, if you were listening to Big Beat, he had you buying that there at 3, so you are sitting good. Crude oil WTI is back above 70. We've seen this spot be a little sticky here, so we'll see if we max out here just below the 71 handle. That has been the spot here that we've in general been slowing down at recently, so see if we break out of that trend or stay in there. And then the 30-year staying above 4.8 here, trying to make a move to the upside, quite honestly. And again, its high was 4.846 back here, in April, but we are pushing towards that high. So the question will be, do we cap out at that spot or do we head back up towards that 4.9? 10-year back at 4.63, so not as high as the 4.73 we saw again in April. But again, treasuries are moving up. Haven't heard much on bond yields. I'll have to keep a look and see what's going on there. But that's where we're at. When we look at the sectors that are, positive or negative so far, the only thing positive so far is the energy sector that is slightly positive. Everything else negative with Communications sector down about 1.3%, taking the grunt. If we start to look a little further into things too, Mag 7 outside of Tesla, all looking to open on the downside here. Um, haven't seen a whole ton of volatility on any of them. They've been sort of flat. Just trying to see if that's correct still. Apple's got a little bit of volatility going today, so you see a little bit of volatility in Apple. Microsoft trying to push higher here. Google pretty flat. Amazon down slightly, Meta down about a half a point. Like we said, Tesla is up about 3/4 of a percentage point here. So we'll keep an eye on that here today. Also, I do have, when it comes to crypto, not a good day overall. But and what they're doing though is it's basically giving back away the gains that it made here the last couple of days. A lot of them, Ethereum had moved up from 31 to 36 or so, 37. Now moving back down to 33. Solana 188 here gets sort of interesting again. I like it better at that 175 area, but Solana is one that could be a possibility here. Another one on a pullback, XRP back at 217. If we see a little bit more of a retracement there, could get interesting. Aave, same thing. Aave, which had really blown up with the interest there, by the Trump family and their World Liberty token, so it's pulling back here. I think that one I'd be looking more to see if it pulls back towards this 300 level as a nice spot, because you got pretty much a little bit of an M formation. So I would look that more at that 300 level. MSTR getting hit about 2.5% here this morning. Also down. Mara is down about 2%, also back below that 20 handle. So Mara is one I'm interested in here. I like it when it gets above that 20 sort of 15 area here. So we'll keep an eye on that today. In today's sort of movers, SARO, which is Standard Aero Transportation Company, getting a little bump up here, about 6% here this morning. Jumped up. Didn't see any news I could really find on it. Let me look over here too. Hold on one second. Let's see here. Yeah, really not seeing anything offhand. Yeah, I don't really see much on it so far in the news, but up about 6%. Flutter had made a move up. It has retraced now. It had made a nice little move up here. Was up about 6%, but quickly retraced through that. Flutter is an interesting one. I'm going to do a little bit more search on, because they are a European company in the casino gambling. DraftKings. They are actually not DraftKings, but FanDuel. So I'm going to keep an eye on them. I want to take a look there. Another company that was moving up today was Gildan, the activewear company. Um, and again, not really any news I could see on this, but a nice move up about almost 5% again. On the downside, Bausch and Lomb was down about 2% here this morning. MSTR, like I said. MSCI was getting a little bit more of a pump here again. That's one I just don't feel comfortable yet. There's just too much unknowns there for me personally on SMCI, but is up about 2%. GME Roaring Kitty posted a picture of a Christmas present yesterday, and that has shares of GME pumping up about 5% here this morning. So we'll see if that has any legs. Do we see the meme stock make a move? I think those days of this really doing all that much are sort of over. I mean, it's made some moves. Let's look at this daily chart. I mean, you can't say that. It's made some moves here in May and in June, but recently its pumps have only been to this sort of 33 area. So it's getting to where it's in an interesting zone because if it breaks 33 here, your next level you're looking at really is 38 and then towards the 47 level. So it does start to get interesting there. Uber was pretty volatile this morning. Most of the market news there was that they were attempting to buy a food delivery service company in Thailand, and that fell through. So they were down a little bit. American Airlines, I have this up here, wanted to see it is down about 1.15%. Not hit nearly as bad as I thought you might see based upon their poor performance here during the holidays. We know that they had had some planes grounded around the U.S., so we'll see what happens there. Netflix, I thought, their coverage on NFL pretty good. They definitely need to work on some things like their studio show. I thought that their studio show was very much filled up with like comedians and sort of off base. Now on Christmas, maybe that's good for viewers. I haven't seen the numbers yet. But I thought that they did pretty good. I didn't have any problem getting it on my phone, on my TV. There wasn't any lag, so no issues that we had seen. With the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight, we didn't have any hangover from that, so that was positive to see, in my opinion, for Netflix. And again, we know Big Beat thinking that's going to go up towards the $1,000 mark. We are going to spend some time today going through a bunch of uh, companies that are within 2% of the 200-day MA. As you know, I like that as a target. For bounce backs, there are some attractive companies. They cover a varied swath of diversity. So I thought we would spend a little bit more time, take a look and see what analysts, do a little bit more fundamental research on things that are approaching a good technical analysis, zone. So, and those are Procter Gamble, Abbott, GE Aerospace, Caterpillar, Lowe's, Chubb Limited, Starbucks, Southern Company, is that Schwab? I forget. No, Sherman Williams, ICE, the parent company of the New York Stock Exchange, Duke Energy, and others. So a good swath of companies that I think it'd be good to start to take a look at their, price to earning ratio. What have they done? What are analysts saying about it? So that's what I'm planning here to do today is spend a little bit more time looking at those. Did notice now this might have changed, but no, well, a little bit. AVGO still getting some love here. But in general, the chip sector taking it pretty hard here. Nvidia down about a little over half a point. And, pretty much all of the largest 2025 chip companies in the red. Again, a little bit of love for Chinese companies, Alibaba and Temu's parent company up. Otherwise, again, all e-commerce down. My initial takeaways from what I've heard on CNBC and other places when it comes to sales were that unfortunately the quick start that we saw on Black Friday didn't seem to continue, and we're doing it. I'm seeing Tom Lee here coming on. Let me see what he's saying here on CNBC. I always like to hear what he's saying. So he was saying, So he was saying if it's a tech-led rally that we start to see in 2025, U.S. stocks will be the winners. If it's an industrial-led move that we see, which is what Big Beat's sort of calling for, that we could look more to Asia or more to Europe as spots there for value. Okay, so just Tom Lee, he's been sort of calling this bubble. He doesn't think it's quite there. He thinks it can continue to go on, that basically valuations have caught up, but as he said, it could be harder for see surprises to see those upside moves. That makes a lot of sense to me. Now to talk to him about small caps. Okay, so let's do our own research here. Like I said, I have some of them up here, although I did want to take a look. Banks, I do see a couple of banks moving up here today. Royal Bank of Canada up a little over 0.5%, and HSBC. So a couple of foreign banks actually catching some tailwinds here as we come out of the holidays, where most of the others are still down. Again, play on China seems to be in play today with Yum up about 2%, which is fairly big play in China. I do want to take a look here then. Baidu is down. JD slightly down. So it is a mixed bag. It's not necessarily everything is one way or the other when it comes to China today. So did want to just take a quick look at that. Mealy at 1743, a little bit more of a pullback there. That gets interesting again for me. You know, Steve and I did really well with Mealy, but I like it better at the 1600 area as a spot, even 1650 as a spot to pick it up. So we'll see what we get there. Okay, so let's start to look at these companies that are coming close to the 200-day MA. One of the first ones we're going to talk about here is Procter and Gamble. You know, a few things I want to look at. First off, where's it trading in the 52-week range? And it's actually not too bad for something that's, you know, sort of hugging that 200-day MA line, in the fact that it's in about the, you know, it traded between 145 and 180. So right around that 168, 170 level, you still get upside to the all-time high. And then if you see a breakthrough that, of course, you know, then we look at that from there. But I kind of like the look of this chart on the daily chart. Part of it being I like the way this sort of bottom trend line's working out here, right? You know, holding up pretty well overall. It's made a couple of bumps through that area, but not really. Um, you know, my concern, I think, is maybe that 200-day MA. I mean, the 50-day MA above it. You know, you can see how it sort of got knocked down from there a few times here in the past. So you're going to have to break through that 170. But from a technical chart point of view on a daily chart, it's a decent looking chart here. You know, not a bad looking chart at all. You know, if it pivot points here, it looks nice. So let's start to look through some of, you know, what an analyst saying there. What else do we see when we look at this? Um, let's start with analysts. And when I take a look, I see recently on 12/16 that Jeffries gave it a maintain. And oh, I'm not looking at the right stock here. I was moving around. I don't want to do that. So here we haven't really had any in December, but in end of November we got a few in a row where we got about either a 190 or a 209, an overweight or a buy were the last calls. So you got analyst 190, 209, 191, 183. So the analysts are pretty positive on it. On the latest news, like I said, you can see D.A. Davidson upgraded Procter and Gamble from neutral to buy, raised their target from 160 to 209. Wells Fargo again gave it a price target of 190. No one's bearish on the stock. There are some people that are indifferent on the stock, but we're not seeing anybody that is actually negative on it. Hmm. Yeah, it doesn't look too bad at all. So, Procter Gamble one, I'm interested here. Let's see what else. Let's start to look a little bit more at the financials here. So the market cap's about 400 billion. They do pay a dividend of about 2.38%, so not bad. Price to earnings ratio is 28.99. And their basic EPS is about 5.95 a share. Just trying to see if there's any red flags I see or any kind of, ultimately green flag, so to speak. Did have one that had the insider buying. Where is that? Let's see if there's been any insider buying. So we see an acquisition by Aguilar Moses Victor Javier. 25,000. Looks like he had some trust movement. Doesn't look like I see. Not seeing a ton. And if we look here, so an institutional ownership, they got about 3,686. About 67% is institutional ownership. Biggest company is a Neuberg Berman Group. They own 5.87. I will say most of the largest people outside of State Street were sellers, but you can't get mad when someone has 48 million shares and they sell 141,000. So, a little bit of reweighting there. So it definitely doesn't look too bad. I'm thinking this is not a bad one here. So, Procter and Gamble definitely going on my maybe list here. Ones I'll keep an eye on, but I'm going to do more research. Going to use a little bit of our AI to help me with this stuff, but we're going to try to figure some of that stuff out. So we are about 5 minutes from open here. Tick is negative about 200. Advanced decline currently negative about 750. VIX is at 1531. It has been rising up here today. It was back down, I think, in that 13 level, and now has jumped back up. SPY and QQQ not doing a hell of a lot, sitting at about 0.35, both of them about even. Bitcoin is trying to move back up towards 96 here. We'll see what we get there. Gold fairly neutral since we've been on the air, sitting right around that 26-25 spot. We'll say most things are, up or down about a percentage point. ITT is up about 1.23 here, a little bit higher. I see KSS, which is coal's down a little bit more than 1% here. Mara, like we talked about, down about 1.74, but that is bouncing back up, if I'm not mistaken, a little bit here in the last few minutes. Let's take a look and see what our pre-market pumpers look like here this morning. SPRC, SciSpark LTD, up 243% already this morning, right around 75 cents, but still in play here if you look at it. Definitely still in play. Here, if you break that, if you break 79 cents here, you could actually get a nice little run here going. Millennium, a little rougher. You need to see that bout so far now. This is seeing the laws of diminishing return. It made its first pump good. Second pump, not as high. Third pump, couldn't get as high. And then just sort of coming down. You can see that trend line here. So you need to see a break out of that trend line here. If it does, could see a nice move back up. COEP, this one looking similar to what we saw with a SciSpark here. So this one could look to take a move too if it breaks through VWAP here. Here, if you see a run through 33.68, you would be interested here. Let's see if we if it crosses it, we set an alarm on it. Same thing here. Let's set one for SciSpark 2. COEP. Already got that one set. Setting some alerts here and hey Zora, Merry Christmas, dear. Yeah, we got up almost to 800. I mean, as close to 100,000 as you can get. We got to 99 8 but has dropped back down. Starting to pick up a little bit here this morning. So we will still see here. We will still see. Trying to see if we can find a pumper here this morning. See if we can find a pumper. Oh, we got one of the alerts going off. What just moved? SPRC. Here it goes. SPRC running here. There it goes. Boom. Look at that. Wow. Nice run. Crossed 80, went all the way up 88. So definitely seeing a run. Zori, probably, I mean, you probably will, just be careful with it, don't get FOMO. You sometimes get a tendency there to get a little bit of FOMO and wait for Bitcoin to make a move, and then you kind of get in, be more with your philosophy of looking at that chart and saying, okay, if we're looking at Bitcoin, give me 1 second here to get on it. Here it's actually, I mean, 101 is the level, sort of the make it in the sand level that you want to keep an eye on here. Anything above 100, 101, 200, you could try to sell and then pick back up when it crosses back below it. So I guess that would be the level. You can see we've only really made this one run above it over here. Otherwise we were unable to ever break through that. So that to me would be sort of, anything over 101, 500, you could start to. Yeah, that was just a trading view one. Um, the alert, yeah, not like the old one I used to use. Yep, much more subdued, as I grow up. So, yep. So that's, it definitely, you definitely could see it. I don't think we have a straight thing up. Does not look like the you know what I mean? It does not look like the Santa Claus rally is coming here this morning across the markets. We are open here. We are seeing a little bit of a move to the upside here now, down only a quarter of a point on QQQ. Let's keep an eye on these pumpers here. I will say, Zora, now is a good time to look at. There is a nice list of about 40 stocks that are within 2%, 3% of the 200-day MA that I'm interested in. Yeah, I don't know if you came in when I was looking at Procter and Gamble being one of them, but analysts have that, looking at somewhere around $200 as a target in general. You look at their financials, look pretty good. Looking at their earnings, sort of everything out there, their news, not a bad one to keep an eye on. Their daily chart looks nice here on it. I was pointing out that it seems to be using this bottom trend line here, going all the way back till last year this time. Except for this one little bounce down below the 200. That 200's held up really well. So one that, again, I'm looking at ones now, for next year that might be opportunity for more swing trades, but you got to think this one starts to get some momentum. It's got an opportunity to go back to its 180 for sure. And then, as we said, the analysts looking for between 190 and 209 on it. So looking at those, and they're across a lot of industries here. So I think every day over the next few weeks here, I'll go over one or two of them and take a look and give you my sort of analyst view of what I think there on some of them. We got a good swath because you got Procter and Gamble, which we know, makes pretty much everything in the world. You got some computer, GE Aerospace, Caterpillar in the industrial side, Lowe's if you think that home building is going to pick back up. It's a good swath of companies. Like I said, these aren't, I only used ones that were either in the NASDAQ 100 or in the S&P 500. Carrier, if you think air conditioning and those units are, going to get replaced here soon. ICE, which is the company that is the parent company of the New York Stock Exchange. Sherman Williams, again, I think housing, whether people are buying new houses with these rates or not, I don't know, but I know two things is people who aren't buying new homes are going to want to improve the ones they live in, right? I think a lot of people are going to take a look and make a decision and say, wow, I know I was one of them that thought, incorrectly that rates were at zero. They jumped up, but we would move back to zero at some point. And now I'm learning through all of our experts here at Quasar that that's not the case. That most likely, there is a good chance that 4% is the new sort of low for mortgages. So if that's the case, and there's a lot of people that have 2% mortgages that aren't going to sell a house for a while, Zora, I gotta get you in there because that's the company one, but I will do that. Let me put a note on that. I gotta wait for Steve to come back from vacation, but we'll get you in there. Write a note, Zora Slack. What is your Zora? Do me a favor, text me. Don't put it on there. Text me your email, and I'll see if I can invite from through mine. Um, but text it. Do not put it on there. You don't want it all across YouTube there, lady. We don't need anyone trying to scam you. Um, but I do think, again, Sherman Williams, whether new homes are being built, because I do think that you're going to see a lot of that, as an avenue, because quite honestly, home builders have the ability to buy, like when we bought our house, they bought down the mortgage rate so that we are, much lower than the 7% or whatever it's, sort of trending at now. We were able to get in more at that 5% because of new home builders. So again, I think, paint's going to be one that comes up. If you've got a home and you're not able to buy a new home and you want to make yours look nicer, right? I think, Sherman Williams, I think Lowe's are going to be the winners there, or two of the winners. Gonna say one I'm not a fan of, and I'll do more research. I think I'm just biased because I don't like Starbucks coffee in general. I think it's kind of lousy. Um, and I've never been a fan. So I don't know that I like this one, but it bounced right back through that 200, so it's one we got to look at. So I'm going to take a look at that, put on my analyst hat. I mean, if I look, oh, what do we got? We got another alert. Let's see. This could be a decent one. Just the Zoom card just went through the VWAP, so this one could be interested here. Pulling back a little bit here. Made an explosive move through VWAP here, but it sort of already jumped immediately right to that first profit level you would have looked at. It went 322 to 370 just too quickly there. Let's see if we get a retest of VWAP here. It could be one to take a look at here. Tick still slightly negative, but with that being said, QQQ and SPY are both moving to the upside slightly here. Looks like small caps getting hurt right now. We see the rut opening down to the negative side here, about 0.6 of a percentage point. Bitcoin holding up pretty nicely at 95,650. And I think, Zora, to also answer your question a little bit about Bitcoin, what you would probably want to start to do is lower the percentage of your holdings that you are actively trading on that range trading move. Does that make sense to you? In other words, if you were selling 50% of your Bitcoin and buying it back before, I would now be lowering that to maybe 30%. Because I think that, you don't want to be left behind. So I would use a little bit of a smaller one and say, okay, as things approach 101, maybe I sell off a little bit, and then I look to pick it back up in that 95 area. It's not a bad 5% swing if you can keep doing it. And we were successful with that for a long time when it stalled out back when the crypto room was still open. So, I can't argue with that. And you can see on the hourly chart here that after we made the big pull down here, last Friday, that's exactly what you're basically trading between is this 92, right? We hit it twice already. Didn't make it all the way down. See, this is what you got to worry about is, you had sort of the half pullback, that's, I'll show you what I mean here. You can kind of see for sure, right? We had a trading range get developed in between these two lines. And if you were successfully trading it, it's a nice trade. But the problem that I see here is, and it's a good problem for Bitcoin, right? We dropped all the way down here really quickly. Bounced back quickly too, which was nice. This time it was a more slower drop, but we stalled out right about the midpoint of it, right? So about the half pullback median reversion is where we sort of stalled out, and then we did get the final breakdown. Question is, again, on the way back up, we stalled as opposed to straight back up like we did here. And then when we dropped down, we did it quickly, but we found good support right at this mid-level of the reversion. So, that's what's got me a little bit more nervous. What I would say is the rinse and repeat works on that. If you see a further breakdown today towards 92 before you see a break up above, let's say 96.5, I would say whatever this line is, 96.250. So that's what I would sort of be looking at. What it does when it approaches that line is going to sort of give you that kind of that decision is where you're going to look. That's our pivot point is right around that 96.200. If we can break back above it, I think that we're going to head right back up to that 100 level. You can see we've done it pretty well over here a couple of times. And it would be positive. If this is our lower high, our higher low, excuse me, compared to back here, these two, that would be a fairly bullish move. I haven't seen much of a divergence. I was looking to see, let's put RSI on this hourly chart for a second. Hold it. Just trying to see if we would find any kind of bullish or bearish diversion. But I don't really see it. You could see it here, right? Where we started to see in this area, where up here we held up price longer. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Delete. Right about this area, price held up better than RSI did before we had the breakaway. So you had a little bit of a bearish divergence there. Here, pretty much back on track, right? Those things mesh up pretty well. I do want to pull RSI back out of here, though, because of the way I have my chart set up. Okay. So we're stuck right at that. We see the tick finally going positive here, up 55. So is Santa coming? Can we get this rally moving? Doesn't seem it to me. It just seems to be a little bit of shuffling, right? QQQ's moved back down a little bit, now down 0.2. SPY back down 1/4 percentage point. But the rut that had been, down almost 0.7 percentage point, now down about 0.5 percentage point. So we're seeing a little bit of reshuffling without a real move one way or the other. Same thing, gold sort of sitting here at 26.25. I wonder if volumes come back in. Let's take a look at QQQ as a gauge there. Yeah, 15 minutes. Kind of tough to tell in a 15-minute window. I need to see a little bit more volume. It does look low considering that we normally see a bigger pump right now. Although this is the daily. Let's take a look at the hourly. Yeah, volume's still low. The volume is definitely still a little bit low here. Ooh, another alert. What do we got? They're all setting off. Z car again. Let's see this. Come on, switch over. Why doesn't it want to switch over for me? Oh, I hate when this thing doesn't want to work. So that one pulled right back down through it. Huh. Let's see what we've got going on for pumpers here. See if we've got any halts or anything else exciting. HOUR halted 942. That should be coming off here pretty soon. HOUR. Get this. Oof, that's halted the wrong way. That one's not very fun. LAES stopped again. This one has been so volatile. Halted to the upside. Here you go. Here's a runner. This one we know has got room to 640, and even this is one that's interesting. You've got room here. I don't know. I would chase it off this halt though. Let's see what happens when it comes off of this halt at 619. Should be coming off right now. There it goes. Wow, there it goes. Right to the upside. 634. It's gonna run. Zora, I gotta get quicker here. I missed that. You guys know I love that seals. We've had this one on the watch list every day. We had a quick one, Zora, you're right, and it didn't last. What I'm seeing is a little bit more strength, quite honestly, out of the rest of the world. We saw, the Nikkei ended up about a half a point overnight. Um, Now 0.6%, so it's still moving up there. The Nikkei moved up nicely. The stock in Europe, even, which has been so much under pressure, it's moved up today, and China up about 0.14. So we've seen a little bit more strength overseas than we have here, to be honest with you. Um, Nat gas dropping down a little bit here, 357 again. That was at 360 this morning. Gas WTI is holding above 70 here. It's one that I get interested in here. It hasn't been able to break 71 and hold at above 71. So one to definitely keep an eye on. Rate in the 30 years come down a little bit this morning. It was up at about 4.83, I think it was earlier. So down slightly. And again, if we look at sectors, man, the only sectors that are up right now are consumer staples and real estate funds. So it's interesting. Advanced decline. Now sitting at negative 22.49 there, so not that good. So again, definitely seeing weakness here this morning. Zora, I will be signing off a few minutes early here today. I have a lovely eye appointment to get some new glasses before the end of the year. Before my insurance cycles, got to use up that money, right? Trying to see if any of the morning runners are still running. Not really. Really. Quiet day so far. Yeah, the overseas pop definitely, Zora. That's where we saw it. I thought it boded well for the U.S. this morning, but it didn't. It just didn't hold up. either on equities or on crypto. Um, yeah. And no news. There was nothing that I saw anywhere. There was no, none of the normal FUD that sometimes leads to some of this stuff. Again, you know what I didn't look at? I'll tell you right now, I didn't look at liquidations today. There didn't seem to be a huge, although the way it cascaded down overnight around 4 a.m., you probably had a little bit of liquidations there. Yeah, you did. You had it again. I mean, every day now we're seeing about $250 million in liquidations. To the last 24 hours, almost 300 thousand and 232 million of them were shorts, were longs rather. So, yeah, so liquidations definitely did come back to haunt a little bit there. If I pull this over, we can see where the liquidations have been happening here and where we're set up one way or the other right now. So, looks like to the downside, if we drop below 95, 200, Zora, we're going to drop down further. And then the big one is if you get below 94, 800, you've got a decent amount of liquidations you'll have down to the zone back around 94. So downside, I think you have down to about 94K. On the upside, first one's 96 300. If we can break through that, it could get us up here towards this 96.5, which would trigger liquidations to the upside. Gives you room till about 97, it looks like. So, not a ton of leverage built up there, it doesn't look like. Open interest right around 114 billion, which, again, if we compare it to where we were, last week at 135, it doesn't sound like much, but you're down, 25% from the highs. So open interest not terrible. If we look at it on Bitcoin only, 68 was open interest on the 17th. We're down at 61. So, again, that's over 10%. You know what I mean? That's a 10% pull down. So, okay, let's take one last look around the world here before I take off to go get some glasses. Advanced decline just looks negative at minus 2,300. I think that tells you what you need to know here this morning. It's going to be at best a stock pickers market today. Be a little bit nimble, is what I want to say basically. And you can see we are dropping down here on QQQ here to the lows of the day. So does look like we are headed back down here today. Beware of the market here and keep in mind, news will change it. You'll start to see more news, headline news start to break today a little bit. And then we have expirations tomorrow. So thank you for joining us today, Zora. Have a fantastic day, and I will check for your text and try to get you on there ASAP. Everybody have a fantastic day, and I will see everyone bright and early tomorrow morning.